Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Get Good NA Week 5, Round 9. We're going to be hopping into the intermediate tier this time around. We're going to be witnessing the Wacky Wildcats versus Corvus Static. For your casting entertainment, I'll be Sir Waltham, joined again by Pulse. Pulse, tell us a little bit about these teams.
Yeah, so we're going to be bringing you this intermediate match. You're going to have to deal with us just a little bit longer tonight. And this will be actually the last match of tonight. So, like you said, Wacky Wildcat Cubs versus Corvix Static. Right now, we'll get to it in a second, but on the blue side, going into Lijiang, actually, so not too much of a surprise,
Mhm.
we will see Wacky Wildcats running Shen Chen, Genji, Patsby, Cray Racing, Classic, and Wolf. And that was actually, since I didn't say it, in DPS tank support order, of course.
Mhm.
And Genji will be one of their ringers for tonight. We actually have 3 ringers in this match as of right now. So
Mhm.
both these teams are doing a little bit of a do-si-do with their lineups, if you will.
Yeah, and looking similarly onto the other side of the field, the other two ringers are going to be, I believe, Sunliner and True Donger on the DPS roles for Corvus Static. Matt R and Jelly Boy going to be filling out the tank roles. Strife and Alpaca both taking up the support mantles for the team. So yeah, a lot of substitutions coming in, a lot of ringers rather, I should say, coming in. But there's I believe it's Wacky Wildcats. Yeah, it is Wacky Wildcats, who has a huge roster to backfill. We were talking about it a little bit before the cast went live here, Pulse. Do you think they still really need ringers based off of that?
It's interesting too because one of the things that's notable about their lineup is that they have 9 players, which isn't super weird. But they only have 2 DPS players in there. A lot of their substitutions are going to be support players or tank players as necessary, but they are kind of stuck to with their 2 DPS players. But with Genji coming in for their ringer, it looks like it will be filling out more of the flex support or flex DPS role, if you will, because Shen Chen is listed as their hit scan player. So it will be a little bit interesting to see how these two teams play with so many substitutions in, especially with DPS.
Mhm.
It's gonna be a little bit easier on them than if they're having to deal with, like, completely new tanks or a completely new main support just because those positions require so much synergy, but it's still gonna throw some interesting kinks into how these teams play.
Yeah, absolutely. And the substitutions add an interesting variable in here. Another one that I don't think we've discussed yet is that I believe these two teams actually have the same win-loss record. It's going to be 5-3 for both of them, as last I checked. And that means that these teams are probably pretty evenly matched, both having their moments and taking a few losses along the way. That leads me to believe that these substitutions might be even more crucial. A team with 4 core members probably going to be a little less stable than a team with 5 core members.
Yeah, absolutely, and, like, at this point, it's very late into the season. Both these teams do have 5-3 records, so that's in a position where depending on your outcomes this week, you may make or break the playoffs based on it. You don't want to be at any disadvantage if possible, but both these teams are going to have to put up with it and deal for it today. So now one of these teams is going to be looking to go 6-3, take today's win, but it is going to be Lijiang Gardens. And this is the first time in a while, actually, that I haven't seen Control Center first. We are kind of joking about this during the break, but
Yeah.
last couple times I've shown up on GGNA, we've seen quite a bit of Lijiang Control Center actually coming out first.
Yeah, and I was talking about it a little bit earlier, precast, of course. But when you talk gardens, I always secretly have my little hope, my little sparkle in my heart that we're going to see some Pharah. With Echo, it's not as common. You typically see the Echo being that high flyer, although it looks like Corvus might be giving me a little bit
Someone
of,
answered your prayers.
yeah, Corvus, a true donger might be my ringing bell here.
Yeah, Pharah Tracer still very good combination on this map. But if this stays as we think it is, that Lucio might just be for the speed boost here coming out from Strife before they switch back to Mercy, and they will. But Winston Hammond is very good on this point, but it's not something you see a whole lot just because of the lack of peel he provides.
Ooh, and True Donger getting the concussive blast onto Wolf, taking them out early into this fight. Rocket's trying to come down. Genji cleaning up onto Jelly Boy. That Winston falling rather early for such a large health pool, but Genji cleaned up by Alpaca. The support's trying to kick back just a little bit. And with that, it's looking so far so good for Corvus, especially off that first kill. And right now, numbers going all in favor of them, but they still don't have command of the point. Trying to land some shots, Trio Donger not quite able to land it as they need to, but it doesn't matter. The rest of their ground team is there to help enforce that. With it, the Tracer going to be the last one to try to contest Cart. It's looking like, but Jelly Boy getting taken down means the sustain for Corvus not going to quite be around as much. Tracer does get the pulse mine onto Wolf, and with that, Corvus Static so close to getting this point filled out, just not quite able to yet here.
The kill feed is all red, but you keep seeing blue members from Wacky Wildcats come in, contest point, die, trade kills, things like that. Genji comes in, finds the pick onto the Mercy, but alas, it's Sunliner starting to pop off on this Tracer and find the final blows they need.
Yeah, just a wild fight. The sound barrier being invested by Classic. The Genji blade coming out from a literal Genji. This might have just been enough to turn it in favor of the Wildcats, and Wacky certainly fits their name.
Yeah, and the Hammond's still the one rolling around point, trying to get some value, but alas, is taken down. And a good 2-minute first fight, couple ults dropped in there. That was absolutely crazy to watch, but finally it's Corvus Static that take first control, are already up about 10%, but I'm going to be looking at this far barrage to open things up.
Yeah, Corvus going to be looking to get that first kill, get the first flip over. Shen taken dangerously low by Sunliner. It looks like the Nano Boost going to be going on to Sunliner, really plying that damage into Classic. The Rocket Barrage coming in from True Donger. Going to be taking down the mech from Patsby, but cleaned up by Genji's. Genji. And these Tracers kind of trying to play around each other, not able to find it, though. Not a lot of fighting taking place on point. It will just be the Wrecking Ball trying to stall out, trying to put some pressure on there. But it looks like still the kills going in favor of the Wildcats.
Yeah, finally Genji, Grayson, getting a couple picks, turning the kill feed blue. They will hold. Wacky Wildcats in control of point around 50%. They still have plenty of ultimates to work with. The far barrage wasn't quite the answer they needed, and it's finally Jelly Boy and Madar going to make the swap on tanks over to Orion and Zari to match this. Interestingly enough, a Pharmacy and Tracer, but the Diva Bomb finds Strife.
Yeah, you really hate to see that if you're Strife, and now the Genji blade going to be going in, but Genji, not long for the world, does the damage, and the fight has been won for Wacky, but they lose their life for it.
Interesting start to that fight. Strife just barely caught out trying to walk across the open air, but it's this Pharah that's trying to get damage and trying to build up ultimate, but the fight was so fast they weren't able to find anything. Now, Strife is the only ultimate available. Opalka may have made the late switch over to the Lucio just to get back to point. This is last fight territory.
Yeah, and the Primal going to be coming out from K-Racing. And with that, trying to just buy all the space. Looks like he's doing a good job of bullying this Reinhardt Jelly Boy. Not really quite able to get where they want to go. Gets the pin onto the Lucio. Doesn't seem like it's enough to distance. Just a little bit too long. Sound barrier now coming out from Classic since they were kept alive. Looks like it might be enough to keep this team in the fight and help to flip. Damage going through heavy on K-Racing, but not enough to really get those kills confirmed. Shen doing a little bit of a tear on Tracer here and just helping his team win this fight.
Yeah, and that Moira Coalescence really just sealed the deal for Wacky Wildcats. They were able to turn it, keep the tanks alive, keep the pressure on. And 100-0, despite that first fight, Wacky Wildcats did get into a position where they looked pretty dominant, but that first fight was absolutely nutty, and I hope to see a little bit more of that because that's not something you get to see every day in Overwatch. Just a sound barrier getting dropped in the first fight.
Yeah, I mean, had the sound barrier, had the blade. It seems to me like once Wacky set their teeth into something, they do not let go of the bite until it is theirs. And, you know, it won them first point. It allowed them to hold first point uncontested. I got to agree with it.
Yeah, and now we see some changes coming out. You do see more of a rush-style composition coming out from the side of Corvus Static. They have the Doomfist, they have the Reaper, they can get in. They're running Lucio Briggs, so light healing, but a lot of Aura staying here. Whereas you have the Mei coming out. The first wall, not so good, and the team just retreats back to point. Corvus Static have control.
Yeah, True Donger going to be getting an early kill onto Classic, and both supports now taken out for the Wildcats. This is not going to be looking great for them. They need to be playing a little bit conservatively here, trying to avoid all damage. But they're still trying to get this poke in. The point hasn't really been flipped yet, although it looks like it is going to go in favor of Corvus, especially with those 3 kills coming out in really rapid succession.
Yeah, you saw the Reinhardt shield shatter, and that was the go button for Corvus. They were able to just wipe up the kills, get all the staggers. Now, they have full control over this initial choke. They don't have the Mei, but their team gets trapped out from the other Mei while they have to turn and break down, and eventually it does break, but so many resources pulled into keeping them alive. Now they have no armor packs and a solo rally to keep them up.
Yeah, and Sunliner are going to be taking a few shots from Shen Chen, but the kill is going to be traded equally as both DPS are down. The Earthshatter coming in doesn't look to be finding anything for K-Racing, but Wolf put right into the wall asleep, I believe, or a stun onto Genji. Going to be allowing them to be set up really easy for True Donger to just clean him up with that Doomfist.
Yeah, but now Genji online with that Blizzard. That's going to be the ultimate they need to find their way into this point. They have a couple other options. They did use the Ryan Shatter. However, they still have a Graviton and a High Noon, so they can get some things going with that. They do need to be careful as matters with Graviton themselves, though.
Yeah, we saw True Donger kind of pulling out as soon as that Blizzard comes in. The grab now coming in to respawn. Alpaca gonna have to drop the sound barrier in response. Classic gonna be dropping one in kind. The Meteor Strike, the slam dunk combo, the Space Jam as it's been known, coming in. True Donger able to land that Meteor Strike on two. And with this, it's looking a little bit back and forth. Sunliner helping to clean up and equalize here as they still maintain possession of this point. Static do not seem like they're stopping.
Neither team refuses to let go of the point, and it's just been so hard for the attacking team on both sides to get in this map and on Gardens as well. So now, very expensive hold. They use pretty much every ult available to them, but Strife is able to build back up to a rally. Finally, you see the rotation coming through from the Wacky Wildcats. They go through the server room, they try and push in this way, but the Doomfist comes in, doesn't find anything, and the Rhein's trade.
Yeah, the Rhine gonna be a crucial kill here. As we can see, Wacky Wildcat's going to be investing that High Noon, but gets burned down by Matter on that Zarya. The right click just coming in, pelting them right in the face like a dodgeball. And the kill's now starting to go in favor of Corvus, but it's not perhaps going to quite be enough. The Ice Form coming out from Genji just to help them survive the Doomfist.
Yeah, they just get out reset. That's a very smart move, exactly what you need to do. You're already at 99. You don't need to build anything up. However, you do need to worry about Genji's Blizzard coming online, because again, Blizzard very powerful into Rhine compositions. I would be up to Alpaca pretty much entirely on themselves to try and speed boost their team out of it when appropriate. So now you see Corvus Static pushing in, and they have a lot of pressure going up.
Yeah, and an Earthshatter coming in from Jellyboy. Gonna be landing onto 3, not quite finding it though, and the kills so rapidly coming in for the Wildcats. With that, it looks like they're going to continue to hold this point. Strife so low, going to get meleeed by Wolf. Some support on support brutality.
Yeah, the Mora just cleaned up the last couple of kills there. But you saw Jellyboy go for the play. Like, he knew he had to do something, went for the shatter, but playing into a Blizzard like that, you can't make that type of play. They pay for it with their life, and now you have a slam jam combo. This is what they used to clean up a fight earlier, but they're gonna have to pull it out again. They need to find this. They need to find it sooner rather than later, because you're starting to see a lot of percentage come up from Wacky Wildcats.
Yeah, True Donger gonna be missing his initial right click, and that's gonna cost them a little bit. Wacky Wildcat's gonna be taking the initiation here with the first kill onto the Reaper. However, Genji gets equalized a little bit, and True Donger lands right on Wolf, not quite able to escape as necessary. Corvus Static now well on the way to flip this.
99%, this is going to be last fight, if at any fight, because I don't think anyone's going to be able to get in here and touch. And with the Wick burning down, objective secured for Corvus Static. We have a match on our hands, 1-1 on Lijon, going into Night Market.
Yeah, Night Market's going to be the one to determine it. And I'm curious, because we're seeing Doomfist come out, if that's going to lean a little bit more favorably for the side of Corvus, or lean a little bit away from them. Of course, there's always the potential for Symmetra, but what do you think we can end up seeing here, Pulse, before the gates open?
One thing that's been really popular on Night Market as of late is that Symmetra. Like, a lot of teams kind of get off of it if it doesn't work out the first fight, but teams are kind of forced to stay on it for at least one fight to get the crazy teleport up to the window, get to point fast as possible. But it looks like the big difference is going to be on that other DPS for this first fight. Genji making the final swap over to Mei at the end, whereas Sunliner is going to be on this Reaper. So it's going to be a brawl fest on point. Orion's there first from Corvus.
Yeah, and initially it's going to be Jellyboy already getting a bunch of ult charge off of a few swings and fire strikes. With that, the pin trying to come in, but the halt actually sets Jellyboy up to get a pin. Doesn't end up confirming the kill onto Patsby, but will be living for just a brief moment. The Accretion trying to go out onto Sunliner, trying to support themselves here. And with that, it looks like Corvus is going to fall. Now, what's your opinion on the difference between BAP and Ana here, Pulse?
The BAP is a little bit more suited for the composition, right? Like anytime you want to run Orisa, you want to run a BAP just because they pair so well together. However, you see a position where Patsby has made the swap now over to Sigma after they lost control, or after they got control of the point, and Patsby died. They're now on Sigma, so they have plenty of control to push back. Grayson caught out a little bit. Doomfist goes in, gets some damage off, but you see Wacky Wildcats on full retreat to point.
Ooh, and a good Mei wall trying to come in from Genji. Doesn't quite section off True Donger, but the stun coming in from True Donger onto Grayson. That allows Jelly Boy to get a big fat shatter. The Earth Shatter trying to come in. The Immortality Field keeping the team alive as much as possible. And the jungle coming onto Wolf right now, going to be saved by the Blizzard as amazingly a turnaround comes in for the Wacky.
Yeah, they were able to eventually turn it, but, you know, using a Blizzard fort to pick up the last fight might have been a little bit too much. So now I really like to see Classic go back, make sure the team's all together, but finally they all regroup, and you're going to see the exact same push come out from the side of Corvus. They're going to come out this top way, they're going to try and get the Doomfist in, get some slam damage, get an uppercut, try and sector someone off to finish them, but this time Wacky Wildcats a little smarter, they retreat faster.
Yeah, they're going to be looking to get right onto that point. Both teams playing right up in there. Sunliner taking an Accretion Rock after some minor damage. The Flux coming in. Patsby going to be taken down. True Donger. Sunliner manages to still survive. Creeping in the backline's not going to be enough, though, as it looks like Static does not have the manpower here. Sunliner trying, but just so ineffective on this Reaper.
Yeah, unable to get in, unable to find the positioning that they need. Now they're just trying to run. That's not beside your spawns on Sunliner. Get back there. But it's up to him to try and contest this point.
That certainly will be, as Sunliner going to be creeping around the back, playing cautiously around this cliffside. Rayson going to be getting an early kill, though. Sunliner not quite able to make the move fast enough, and because of that, Sound Barrier, Earth Shatter, Amplification Window, all going to come out from the now defending team of Wacky Wildcats. With this Genji getting the triple kill to secure it, overtime's going to burn down. That means Wildcats going to be taking this one home.
Yeah, a little bit more decisive for that on Night Market that we saw. Wacky Wildcats just able to take control of that, really able to fight back in losing fights and keep control of the point, which isn't something you always get to see in Overwatch. So very impressive, and I think that's going to honestly be a big deciding factor. Some of that might be because of the DPS lineups like we were talking about, but being able to clutch out fights that you shouldn't be winning is really keeping Wildcats at a massive advantage right now.
Yeah, it really is, and a lot of times I feel like there's this thing where casters will say, oh, you know, the score was 2-0, but it didn't really reflect the intensity of the game. And it kind of feels like this is the exact opposite, right? Like it was 2-1, but once teams got points, they pretty much just had it locked down for most of the round here at Lijiang. So it's interesting to see that kind of reverse dynamic. But I guess looking onto it now, knowing that Corvus did at least come away with a map pulse, what do they need to do? What do they need to keep in their minds as they look forward?
I think they really need to play to their strengths right now, because you are running two ringers, right?
Mhm.
A lot of the differences in teams that we saw was a little bit of the coordination DPSs, but specifically what your DPSs were comfortable running, right? Like they really wanted to run Doom Reaper.
Mhm.
It's very obvious they wanted to run that. Like Sunliner was pretty good on the Tracer as well earlier, so that's something they can rely on. But when they were playing like Doom Reaper on Control Center, it was working out. They were able to get the picks onto walls. When they were playing it on Night Market, however, the rotations were a little bit off. Some of that might have been to playing into the difference in tank line all of a sudden, because now you're dealing with like Orisa Ryan or Sigma Ryan for depending on what part of the map at Night Market you're looking at.
Mhm.
And that difference in tank line, I don't know if it was necessarily to directly address the Doom Reaper with the accretion stun or the halt, but things got a little bit dicey there, and they weren't very clean on rotating in their Doom and Reaper. Because when you're running that comp, you want to have one of the DPS go in, get out, the other one go in, get out, but in a very quick succession, so that the support's heads are always on a swivel paying attention to you, right?
Mhm.
And it fell apart a lot when they weren't playing into that Ryan Zarya, because all of a sudden you're like, they're trying to worry about the accretion rock, and I think they're getting forced out a little bit sooner than they would have liked to be forced out, and they weren't drawing the attention away from the healer's attention away from their tanks.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough spot there. I mean, so looking ahead, do you think there's any map that they're going to be looking to favor?
Well, as a spoiler, these two teams favor a lot of the same maps, so
Well, yeah.
I don't know if things are going to turn out for Corvus Static today. Part of
Mhm,
that is because again they are running the ringers. There a lot of the maps that they want to play are also the maps that Wacky Wildcats want to play. And when you're in a scenario like that, it's very hard to run back a series. So the one I'm going to be looking at the most is Assault if the series goes that far, because that
mhm.
is the big difference between the two. But there is a sub coming in from Wacky Wildcats now. They're going to be running Joe Biden, who's actually on their roster as a poor, but he will be coming in for their hit scan player now.
Yeah, so that's gonna be, I believe it's Shenzhen taken out, and it's gonna
Yeah,
be Joe Biden in. So as you mentioned, it's gonna be a poor, but I'll probably be referring to them as Joe Biden because that's just what I see. But with that, it looks like Wacky Wildcats are gonna be the first up to attack here, and I don't necessarily say I blame them. If they're able to get cart possession based on what we've seen on the control points, they're just going to ride it out and have the opportunity to set themselves up in a great position from the start.
yeah, and actually of note too, teams are going to be swapping sides. A lot of the time, the winning team will opt to pick defense, but we actually see the Wildcats here pick offense. So to me, that indicates that they want to run something unique on defense, right? Like a lot of
Mhm.
times when teams pick offense, it's because it's like, oh, our defense is cancer, and we don't want you to copy it. Like I'm like Bastion Torb, like that's what it's historically been, right?
Mhm.
Um, but if we very rarely see it, but sometimes it does happen where teams are just more comfortable doing offense first,
Yeah.
and that can be the case here. And it could not be the case, but like you never know until you actually see things flip in them on their first defense.
I'm waiting for the ultimate outbrain play where Corvus Static actually has the most toxic, salt-inducing
Oh my
offense,
god.
and they do it on the second round. I'm ready for it. This is my wild out there theory crafting, but I'm hoping we're gonna get to see something like that. Uh, we're gonna talk about Rialto. This gives me the slightest opportunity to bring up a maybe Farah. We saw it a little bit before.
We did see it.
We saw Trio Donger on that Farah, so maybe Farah, maybe some Echo. Um, as an option, it seems pretty common in that first point capture.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if you have someone that wanted to play Farah on Gardens, they'll likely want to play Farah on other maps as well.
Mhm.
So not I wouldn't be too surprised if Trio Donger does come out on that Skybird. However, one thing that has become very popular as of late, and we can't really afford to not talk about it, is Ash. Ash
Yeah.
is kind of like the white elephant in a lot of the rooms in these matches. And although a lot of people for a long time really kind of discredited Ash because there's like, oh, well, she's not Widow and she's not Hanzo. So it's like, why would you pick a sniper-esque hero
Mhm.
that can't one-shot people? And it's because of that dynamite. The dynamite is
Yeah.
very, very strong. Like, do not discredit the dynamite. And if you can have someone that can consistently one zone a Pharah and two land really massive dynamites, an Ash can be incredibly oppressive to a team.
Yeah, I certainly don't disagree. I'm looking forward to seeing if we have that Ash come out. As you said, probably a little bit better on the defense as the Farah. I think a little bit more offensive favored, I'd say, in my experience.
Mhm. And it is interesting too because Escort does flip traditional attack and defense on their head. It's generally the one in control of the card is acting as the defense. So it's not unheard of to see Ash on either side, but again, if you can just get an Ash into a position where you see Trio Donger actually walking out on the Ash instead of the Pharah this time,
Ooh.
and Joe Biden, in fact, will be running this far. It seems like this is something they're prepared for. They want to run something to deal with the possibility of a Farah or the possibility of flankers as well, with that Torbjorn coming out from Sunliner, very easily able to shut down a Tracer or at least zone a Tracer a lot.
Yeah, I would like to take this opportunity that as we see it now, there are no similar heroes on the field. Uh, it's a very interesting opportunity coming out in terms of seeing these teams. We'll see if it's actually going to be reality for Wacky as they
We're
start.
staying on it.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be staying on it. The early damage trying to come in from Joe Biden. Not going to be finding too much, but does build up quite a bit of ult charge, already about a quarter of the way. And with that, so far, not too many picks coming through here.
No, the offense is getting a lot of cart distance as well. They finally zone out the Sigma, drop him on cart, but the wall isn't quite good and actually helps the Sigma escape. So now Joe Biden is just back to the poke phase, trying to get some damage, trying to build up to that barrage, but it's very hard for Far to push into both an Ashe and a Torbjorn.
Yeah, True Donger gonna be absolutely capitalizing upon the fact that there's a Pharah in the sky claiming the headshot. Classic, however, does have the res, but it's not gonna help when your Zarya goes down next. Sunliner taking them down. The Swedish engineer gonna be claiming a little bit of vengeance here. The dynamite coming out as well from True Donger, getting a lot of ult charge built up. Sunliner gonna be taking a little bit of a nap, and that's probably for the best as the defense held pretty well.
Yeah, the offense is absolutely going to struggle getting into here. And as the defense holds on to this becomes a very dangerous comp because the Ashe, the Torb DPS line, those two together can turn fights into an 8v6 between the turret and the Bob. And they're getting into a position where they can rotate the Ashe ultimate so that's coming out every other fight. And once you get into a position with a bunker comp where you have either a turret and or a Bob every other fight, it's very hard to come back from that.
Certainly can be. The nano boost going to be going out onto K-Raisin, trying to make something happen, but doesn't shield up quite enough. True Donger going to be taking them down with that Viper rifle. The coach gun coming out, trying to buy a little bit of space. The damage not quite finding True just yet, but True Donger does get that Bob online though. A lot of ults online. However, the offense still here up and in this fight. And Jellyboy now taken down. That's going to be less of a frontline presence for the Static squad. And all the supports, everything's going a little bit crazy here now for the attackers. K-Raisin gonna be brought back up right in the front lines, dangerously low.
What a transition just to see a Rein charging right at your face all of a sudden. Takes down the Ashe, takes down the backline, and what a play from K-Raisin, able to turn that fight. When you saw the early pick from Wolf, actually, their support player, on their Ana, now they have full control of this part. They're going for the stagger kills, but it is Joe Biden to fall first. And the offense is going to have to regroup. Now, you see a position where Genji has this blizzard. That's the ultimate you want to see into this comp, right? They're going to have to worry a little bit of the heat coming in from Sunlighter's, Torbjorn's Molten Core, but Genji has a play. They can be aggressive, find an early blizzard, and do something with it here this fight.
Maywall coming up, and that's going to signal that the blizzard comes out, but it's eaten by Matter. Matter on the Sigma, ready, reading that like a book. And with that, now Wacky Wildcats still going to be getting the kills, still leaning in heavy onto it. The High Noon coming out from Joe Biden, takes down Alpaca, but not able to take down the Sigma before he lands. Maywall coming out, sectioning them off. Joe Biden finally cleans up the job with a flashbang. And with that, Wacky Wildcats continue this cart progress.
Yeah, and Corvusat completely on the back foot. That's not the type of hold you want on Rialto B, especially when it's normally the point where people take off so much time. And the stagger kills are still coming in from the Wacky Wildcats. They are finding these picks. They're finding all of the space that they need to just push all the way up to the church. And they're in their groove now. They have things going. They do have to deal with a couple ults coming online. Still that Torbjorn Molten Core, which can be very, very space-taking for the defense. But they have to find something. They need to make a play right now.
Yeah, K-Raisin has the Earth Shatter online. Torbjorn throws himself right into the grab, plugs Joe Biden, quick to clean him up, prevents him from getting slammed onto the ground. But now it's all just Wacky Wildcats pushing up ahead. They have the ult from K-Raisin to kind of buy some space.
This Earth Shatter can be huge too. They are playing to double shield, so it's not free, but Jellyboy needs to make a play with this bongo. They need to get in there. They need to get some pressure, but instead the defense is just staggering, and the Shatter goes into his own team's wall, but the bongo comes out, and this Reinhardt is still at the corner, finding kills.
Yeah, if you're racing right now, you're imagining the entire enemy team is Genji taking a pin to True Donger right now. Matter going to be trying to be last man on point, but it's not going to count. 3.5 minutes even for the side of the Wacky Wildcats. Still here on this point.
You saw a little bit of a tactical crouch there from K-Racing too.
Yeah.
He knows what he did. He opened up that first fight, helped cleaned up, and then the entire rest of the map, he was just going into the backline, swinging the hammer, and was kept alive for it. Like, a lot of respect to Wolf and Classic right now, because your Ryan's like the good kind of idiot, right? Like in the backline, swinging hammers, just throwing out shatters for free. But K-Racing really making a lot of use of his support's efforts in keeping him alive right now.
Yeah, I'm absolutely enjoying these Ryan plays here. I mean, And I stand by it. I think there's a little bit of rage behind that Reinhardt after seeing his Earth Shatter blocked.
Especially playing into double shield, right? Like playing into
Yeah.
double shield, Builder, Ashe. That's not a fun Rhine matchup.
Yeah.
And after a while, it's just like it builds up, it boils over, and you're just like, screw these guys. I want to hold left click.
And I mean, apparently every problem that K-Racing had was a nail because they just absolutely solved it with that hammer. But looking at the compositions here, no far out of start from the offense, at least not yet.
No, you see a little bit of difference in compositions as well. Joe Biden is going to be running this Ashe. That Dynamite is a very good oppressive force like we were talking about. Genji will be on this Mei, so a variation of something that I like to call icy hot between the hot Dynamite and the Mei freeze.
I like it.
But a big change coming out from the side of Corvus right now. They're running Ryan Zarya, they're running Reaper Mei, and both teams have just opted to take this Ryan duel. They're going, they see it, they both want to swing, and they're going at it.
Yeah, an early accretion going to be hitting Matter, and the Mei wall coming out, sectioning off, but the Mei wall sandwich actually coming out. K-Racing going to be hit it with an anti-nade, brought down by Sunliner. Sunliner now finding a lot more success on this Reaper than Lijiang Towers past. And with that, putting this pressure on to the Baptiste played by Wolf. Going to be trying to get healed up, but Wolf, Sunliner just not letting him get away. This cart continues to move as a cleanup comes in from the Static squad.
Very early and very quick first fight coming in from Corvus. They're able to get a lot of pressure, start the cart rolling, but there will be one final contest here at point B. Not a lot of options available to the other team, but the defending team, which is in this case actually the offense, they have control of the cart. They can sort of dictate this next fight.
Yeah, Classic on that high ground, trying to buy some space, trying to get Sunliner out of the way, but the Reinhardt taken down for the defense. Sunliner not looking like they know which target they want to pick, but they'll just take a little bit out of everybody. And with that, this cart all clear to move on to their first point.
Yeah, the only thing of note right now for Wacky Wildcats is they did contest very cleanly. They went in at 6, they got out some ultimates, they didn't invest much themselves, and they will have a full regroup. Everyone will be able to get back and regroup at B. So now they're in a position where they could potentially take a fight. They do need to approach this intelligently. Presumably, I'd like to see them get high ground here, but they're just going to come up to this corner, hold at choke, which isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, especially when you get the wall off onto the Reinhardt. Doesn't look like it quite lands, though. The Earth Shatter coming in lands, gets 4 down, but it's going to be Corvus who gets these initial kills. True Donger landing their shots. True with that Icicle getting 2 headshots onto the opposing team. Stripe struggling to hit that Lucio, but it doesn't matter. Just decides an anti-nade will work for their team. Gets stunned and burned down by Joe Biden, who's creeping around in the backlines, apparently.
Yeah, just creeping. I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to make any more comments on it. But McCree going for some crazy flanks, does find one pick at the end, and it is on the Ana, which is the most important one. Ana cannot get back into the fight quickly. The defense is set up. If the offense is not careful, Corvus has to be careful. They're fighting this without the Ana, and the Blizzard comes out early and finds 2, but the Rhine gets out with the bubble.
Yeah, the Rhine does get out, but K-Racing going to ensure that they don't get out for too long. Sunliner using the Death Blossom, just cleaning up one on Genji. Not a bad opportunity here, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough as Wacky Wildcats finally starting to put their heels in the ground and swing back.
Yeah, and now this is the defense they wanted. They're able to dig in a little bit here on point B and start taking time off this clock, which is what they needed to keep competitive in this match. They were able on their defense to hold on A for quite a bit, so now they need to show us some stuff. They need to show us that they can hold somewhere on this map and start taking time off. And point B, honestly, is the perfect spot to do it on Rialto. However you see the offense, recognize that K-Racing's opted to hold low ground, and we're just gonna go push upstairs if you're giving it to us for free.
Yeah, Joe Biden forced to take a little bit of a nap there. The Mei wall coming out doesn't quite section anybody off. Trio Donger might be wanting that back, but they'll have it back in 3 seconds. And right now, both teams really kind of hesitant to play around this wall. That is until Matter drives the Graviton right in. A big shatter coming out. Gonna be landing on 4, but the return grab, the high noon now coming in from Joe Biden. Does he find anything? He finds Sunliner on that Reaper, but Matter quick to burn them down in exchange. Corpus Static have the opportunity and they'll continue to push the cart.
Yeah, this should be a point B. They have a Mei wall to stop choke if they so want, and the offense is going to get a little bit, or the defense is going to have a little late stagger. So if they go in, it will not be as 6, and they just opt to go all the way back into the Church of Rialto and hope for one good fight themselves. So now 4 minutes on the clock. Cart's rolling on point C for Corvus Static. They have a couple ultimates to work with, namely that Blizzard, but Madar might drop here if he's not careful.
Matter did have that personal barrier, but it looks like Grayson gonna get focused down by Sunliner. Sunliner been doing some excellent work on this Reaper, it seems. Just absolutely getting in there, cleaning up Wolf now. Really just not letting up. They look like the they look like the K-Racing of this fight.
Yeah, and now finally, Patsby changes momentum a little bit, takes out Sunliner on the Reaper, get a little aggressive, and the defense has a 6v5 here if they want, and they're going for it. The speed boost comes out, the Zarya's charged, and it's Jellyboy getting pressured, but it has the Nano to deal with it.
Yeah, I guess the Nano, but also takes an Earth Shatter, gonna be driven a little bit farther back, buying his team the space, is the side of K-Racing. To get knocked down by the Earth Shatter, but the Immortality Field from Wolf will keep them alive and healthy. Joe Biden on this Pharah, we have not finished seeing him yet on this aerial ability. And with that taking down too, helps to equalize the team. He needs just somebody to stay on cart. And Jellyboy now taken down. Joe Biden might have helped turn this fight around in just the right way.
Yeah, this is a DPS duo that you want to see on Pharah Tracer, just because the Pharah, the Tracer, the Mercy alone were able to turn that back around through target focus, and honestly, some damage boosted Pharah rockets definitely helped them out a little bit. Joe Biden now sitting at a barrage after only being on Pharah for a good 20 seconds. Very impressive way to flip that fight, and now they're in a time bank lead for the first time. Wacky Wildcats have control of this cart. They have plenty of options available, and they can basically do whatever they want this fight.
Yeah, that's certainly going to be true. They're going to start it off by dropping a grab in there. The rocket barrage going in despite the sound barrier from Alpaca and able to get just burned down quickly enough. Sunliner not able to lift as heavily this time around. The boops not going to be landing quite on the Matter, as they do have that personal, but it's going to be clean up for Wildcats.
Yeah, and Joe Biden again, a lot of damage in that fight came from them. Genji, in fact, didn't make the swap over to McCree at the start of the fight, so now sitting at around 55% ult charge, High Noon can be a very valuable zoning tool. But the big thing to me is that right now, Corvus Static have swapped off this Mei. They've been relying on it so much to get Blizzards to get pressure in fights, but they've just opted to go fully over to McCree Reaper, and they're giving up one of the big advantages they had because of it.
No, and Joe Biden getting Matter is going to be crucial. Jellyboy and Strife both taken to the floor, and with this, Wacky Wildcats win that with, I believe, 2 ults.
And it was a very quick fight too, so not a whole lot of opportunity for anyone else to build up ults if they didn't have them already. It was pretty much just a fire strike and a slam through a Baptiste window, which wiped the other team instantly. Now it's Jellyboy's turn to do something. They have Strife's Nano available to them as well, and Sunliner kind of creeping around in the back trying to look for a Blossom here.
Certainly going to be trying to look for it. Will they find it? Will be the question. As they are getting so close, they're just waiting for that very last moment. I think they learned from Li Xiong to really get that engagement with the team, but an early couple kills coming in make it to where these Death Blossom doesn't seem quite necessary. Joe Biden going to be equalizing with 2, taking down True Donger, and it's going to be Matter trying their best, but Joe Biden gets brought back into the fight, ready to play once again, focusing down Matter, and that was looking very tough for the Wildcats.
And now Sunliner swapped off the Reaper. They refused to try and play for this Death Blossom any longer. It swapped over to Soldier to try and help out his friend on the McCree. It's not really the DPS line you want to see with a Ryan Zarya that lacks a lot of brawling presence, but this is going to be their last chance to try and find value here. True Donger does have this Deadeye to try and find space and open up this fight, but Joe Biden has been getting the better of this McCree in most fights so far.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can find it this time around. True Donger trying to keep eyes in the sky, takes an early headshot on Joe Biden, but Joe Biden just going right behind cover. The High Noon coming in, the grab surge locks people down, and the shield at the last minute from K-Racing is going to save those deaths from the High Noon. The headshot onto Genji going to be taking an early kill. K-Racing taking down the counterpoint, and Jellyboy. And right now, looking a little bit back and forth with this team fight right now, but there is the res still on the field from Classic. I do believe the headshots onto the Zarya Patsby not able to be taken down. The Baptiste amplification window is going to be setting things up well for Corvus Static, and they need to get the cart to 3rd, otherwise they don't stand a chance. And with this, the cart moving so carefully, True Donger in the back, tries to take out the Baptiste, but the Baptiste jumped through down the Immortality Field, unable to clean him up. You're going to be kicking yourself. The Earth Shatter coming in, landing on 3K Racing, once again helping to secure this fight. Joe Biden being the Air Force One of this situation, cleaning up, and with that, Wacky Wildcats managed that 3rd point haul.
Yeah, and able to stop them in the church when they were already down a couple people. Genji making that swap over to Tracer really finds a lot of value for the side of Wacky Wildcats. They were able to pick up the first kill, dance around the McCree, dance around the Soldier, and just really pester the team just enough to get that sweet spot of we're all back in this. We have 6 now, can recontest, and as soon as they got to there, because Joe Biden had the barrage, they won. Like, it's very hard to deal with a barrage in overtime situations, and that's exactly why.
Yeah, I mean, you have to give it to them. I think Wacky was playing really well. I love seeing the Farah. I'm glad it paid off. Uh, I couldn't be any happier here, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, and I do think a lot of that win came down to Wacky Wildcats figuring out what the weaknesses are in Corvus Static right now. Like, they are playing with 2 sub DPSs. That doesn't necessarily, like, a lot of times when teams run like their roster, their DPS have complementary pools, right? And it seems like that's not really the case with the 2 ringers that they've brought in today. A lot of them kind of both been wanting to run these hit scans rather than, like, you saw some May, but as soon as True Donger saw the first opportunity to swap off May, I was like, no, thank you. I'm done with this hero.
Yeah.
But when you're running into a position where you have the Ryan Zarya and a Soldier McCree, a lot of pressure is on your Rhine to try and find value, right? Like, you're
Mhm.
doing a double hit scan to try and deal with this pharmacy. The pharmacy has complete aerial cover inside the church. You can't get those angles as you want as a double hit scan DPS pushing in. So they should have been trying to focus a lot more on that forward game, a lot more on the tank game, a lot more on shutting down K Race and Patsby, trying to catch them out of position and off guard. But instead, they were kind of falling into the trap that Joe Biden put them in on that far, where it's like, well, we need to address the Farah at some point. When in reality, it should have been one of those scenarios where, well, let's win the ground battle, then deal with the Farah.
Yeah, I mean, these we can speculate a lot about the substitutions coming in
Mhm.
because we just don't have a lot of data, and I guess can is an iffy word there. But Sunliner on the Reaper has been very hit or miss. I think on Rialto they definitely had their moments where they shined very well, but on Li Zhong I don't think it was as sufficient as well when we
It
saw
seems
some.
very map and point dependent for
Yeah,
Sunliner,
yeah,
which I think is what you're kind of alluding to. It's
yeah, especially when we saw Joe Biden on that Farah, it looked like it was kind of giving them a little bit of struggle.
Yeah, and I think that is one indicator sort of where especially DPS players start to struggle as you push up in the intermediate ranks towards advanced divisions.
Mhm.
And it's adapting your hero's play so that you can play, instead of being like map and more point dependent for your hero picks, you are more universal on when you can run heroes, right? Like,
Mhm.
when they got to point C, they struggled a little bit with Reaper. One thing that also stood out to me in the way that Corvus Static has been playing is they've been really reliant on forcing the other teams to stagger into fights. And they've been doing that themselves a little bit as well. Like, you saw Wacky Wildcats get in a position on their Rialto attack where they were just able to storm through from point A all the way pretty much towards point C because K Racing was just going forward, getting the people as they came out of spawn because it wasn't a clean regroup. Whereas from the Wacky Wildcats on their defenses, they really didn't push their luck ever with trying to get touches in or point fights in. And
Mhm.
anytime they wipe, they're just like, yes, let us go back all the way to the spawn wherever the last person will spawn and wait for 6, and then we'll push out. And they were much more practiced on those regroups. So I think that was helping them win, take more, take a larger number of more even fights.
Yeah, and I wonder if we were to look back and with this knowledge now and go towards Li Shang, if we'd see kind of that trend, especially since we did see those really long fights where it felt like they happened in a second, and you wonder if we were looking at that through a different lens, if we'd see something a little bit different, or if it was just these teams were just playing the most team deathmatch mode in a completely different style. Either way, we're going to be looking ahead. Hopefully, we'll see some changes come out of Corvus Static if they want to, you know, maintain the dominant win ratio over Wacky Wildcats. We will be going on to Hollywood as our next map. And what does that tell you here, Pulse?
I'm actually kind of excited for this. I know Hollywood does get, to put it lightly, does get some shit from some players, especially in higher ranks, because it is a very unique map, right? There are a lot of quirkiness things about it. It has the elevators on point B. Point A is very flat. Point B is very, very vertical. And there's no way to access the high grounds unless you're someone that has good mobility consistently. So it really challenges a lot of players to have certain hero pools, and if you don't adapt to those, or if you're a team that doesn't like to switch heroes a whole lot, you may struggle a little bit. Hollywood first point though, as of late, and honestly, one of the favorite strategies that I have for Hollywood, going back a long time. Actually, I started seeing it in, I want to say, Pacific Contenders region
Mhm.
back during Goats, right when Ash was released. There was a lot of Ash Pharah being played on this, where they'd shut down Goats teams just at the choke because you set up a team on Cafe, you dynamite people as they walk in, you have a Pharah up there just landing in shots, and it provides a lot of pressure. And while we're not in Goats meta right now, Ash and Pharah for these two teams have been, especially for the Wildcats, has been pretty strong.
Yeah, I could definitely see that being an option here. Whenever I hear like Hollywood, I just my mind flashes to that first point. You know, you get the Orisa, you get maybe a Sigma or a Reinhardt, and you just put a Torbjorn turret right on top of Cafe. It gets to
Yeah.
have a nice cup of coffee at a nice little cafe, and you know it gets to do its thing, and the team just kind of chills. Does build up that Ash ultimate or Junkrat ultimate. I think I used to see back in the day as well.
Mhm.
And I would always pray to the cafe gods that I would see a hammer kill. It never really happened, but you know, a man can hope.
Yeah, it was really funny too, because like Hollywood has historically been one of those like zany maps where you just see weird off meta stuff. Like you were saying, the Junkrat, like even before Torb had his like early rework where he was still throwing out armor packs to his friends. That was one of the maps where you'd occasionally just see like a Torb support line of like on a Torb just in the back line, shutting it down.
Yeah, well, may not be seeing that as much now, given how things have changed. You know, times do move on here. But I've talked a lot about first point. As we move on through this map, because it looks like it's still going to be the Wacky Wildcats up to attack first. Do you think we're going to see anything dynamic out of them coming the second or third points, or even on first point for the attack?
It's interesting to say because I what they've been running is a lot of stuff, right? Like on
Mm,
Rialto, we saw a lot of wholesale changes from both teams. There was that moment right when the map started where there were 12 unique heroes in the game, which isn't something you see in Overwatch a lot. I do think some of their strengths right now, and especially coming out towards the end of Rialto, is that Pharah. Like if you can run a Pharah that just abuses the other team's lack of coordination or abuses the other team's hero pools or anything of that nature, because one of the best counters to Pharah is in fact a diva.
right.
Um, like if you can find a hero, or especially an intermediate division where the other team just has a gap in their knowledge of how to play around it, you can get away with quite a lot of shit.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see if those, I guess, openings appear here as we do head in towards Hollywood. The teams are gonna be giving us the ready to go ahead, and I don't know. Hollywood has always been one of those maps that for me personally has always been really hard to pin down. Like, what is the most appropriate play style, right? Like Gibraltar, I can easily say, oh, a dive play style is really good. There's a lot of high ground. Um, so snipers also work decently well there. A lot of different maps have that kind of feel to them. Hollywood has just been one that I've never gotten a feel for.
Well, I see what the defense is running out on it, and I like it in that I think it's strong. I don't like it in that I would not want to face this in quick play. Because right now we're seeing the Bastion May Cafe hold, if I'm not mistaken. And this can be very disgusting, especially as someone that was scrimming regularly with teams back before breakable barriers was a thing and Sigma was just added. Playing with Orisa Sigma Bastion in a cafe in Hollywood kind of gives me some PTSD.
Yeah, and no Diva or Sigma from the attacking team, so nobody to mitigate that guaranteed damage for X amount of time. In fact, we'll just have to be relying on the Zarya and Ryan's shield and barriers. The Mei wall coming up, going to be blocking off the teams. But already some point presence coming in from Wacky Wildcats. They don't seem too bothered by the Bastion. They know somebody has to get onto the point for the attackers, or for the defenders rather. The Bastion going to be dropping down right on the point, putting his little Bastion toes on there and absolutely mowing them down. But K Racing going to be burning down a Sunliner. That might be one of the few kills that are coming for the attacking team. As now the sides have swapped a little bit. Defenders on point, attackers in cafe, and it's looking so discombobulated from the attackers. The
A little bit of checkerboard.
Yeah, Bastion coming back up just to get brought back down.
Yeah, and eventually the defense will turn this back in their favor. Not before Sunliner takes a couple more deaths than he probably would have liked, but eventually the defense will hold. So now I'm looking at K-Racing, again, has a shatter, has been very huge on this Reinhardt so far, but can't get too aggressive, especially into a Bastion farm. Jelly Boy, likely from the poke, will have a super target coming up, which means that K-Racing will not have a shield, but they're getting these rotations and getting cover, but just need to keep an eye on this Bastion.
Yeah, the Arch Shatter coming in doesn't really seem to land too much. Sunliner does get stunned out. However, Joe Biden taking them down with a couple of icicles, I do believe. And the nano boost going to be going on to K-Racing, trying to find it. The Matter throwing in the Flux, but actually gets dropped before the Flux lands. So it looks like the attack is now going to be very favorable as soon as they deal with that Bastion threat. And yeah, looks like the side of Wacky Wildcats can take it.
Yeah, and they will take it. There will be a not a recontest, but like a strong regroup coming in from Corvus Static. And what I'm really looking at right now is if Corvus Static want to do some cheese, get the Bastion on high ground to get something weird going, especially if you have a Maywall to help assist with that. But True Donger has the Blizzard. Is coming in very aggressively looking for this, but you can't throw away your life just to get this Blizzard off.
They really cannot. True Donger going to have the opportunity for that Blizzard basically for free. No Sigma or Diva, as I mentioned earlier. And right now, Wacky Wildcats trying to play a little bit conservatively, just letting that cart build its natural progress. The Blizzard coming out doesn't get eaten instead. Not going to be freezing up too many people. Genji, however, does fall victim to the Frost. And with that, the Bastion now going to be having a free line of sight to just mow down the remaining attackers.
Yeah, when you have a Bastion in the backline just going like, that's exactly what you want, to be a Bastion turret shooting on 6 frozen people from your Mei. True Donger going for some stagger kills, actually might get staggered himself because of this, and that would be a massive disappointment if that happens, but does escape.
Oh wow, but the Grav coming out the High Noon and the Blizzard all for the attacking team. Pretty much half the chest used right off the bat. It's going to help them secure a couple kills and put the defenders on the back foot. But the Earth Shatter is going to make sure that that back foot breaks on the ankle. With that, it looks like Wacky Wildcats continue through the first half of Streets.
Yeah, snapped completely off is what I'd say. But again, Jelly Boy pushing up, trying to get a little bit of aggressive, but is able to back up with their team. So now, Classic Wolf, the only really 2 options available for the team in control of the cart right now. Plenty of options available though for Corvus Stack. They have a Shatter, they have a window coming out. They can just shred the shield if they want. The Maywall comes up to protect, and Jelly Boy takes a flank around to try and get the Shatter in.
Yeah, not gonna quite find it just yet. Looks for it, hits it, gets a 3-piece off the back end of it. With that, only a couple kills gonna be coming through, but it might be enough for the defense to hold strong here. True Donger trying to do something with this Maywall, separating the teams as much as possible. Has the Blizzard, will they invest in this fight? Certainly doesn't seem like they'll need to, as these respawns are favorable towards the defense. The Earth Shatter coming in takes them down, but Sunliner has the back up for True Donger. Going to be taking down that Reinhardt, making that Earth Shatter Golden Boy.
Yeah, Classic is just going to be taking a trip all the way back to spawn. Now we see, honestly, we see Corvus Static in a position that they really like to default to. They keep going back to this Mei Reaper. I don't know if they want to keep playing it, or if it's just something that happens over time. But now True Donger does have a Blizzard, was smart enough to not invest it in the last fight, and it could be a free fight win for them now, especially playing into Orion, Zarya, Mei themselves.
Yeah, a big anti-nade coming in, as well as the Blizzard. True Donger not going to be able to get too many kills off the back end. Will take down Classic and K-Racing. And they try to chase down their opponents, will be hitting them with that hammer. Sunliner taken to the grave, and Wacky Wildcats now in a dominant pole position.
Strife does get some super jumps just to get out of position, and the team will have to regroup on the defense, but this cart will roll into point B for free now. While Wacky Wildcats sitting in around 3 minutes for Hollywood B, not a shabby time at all, but K-Racing's a little bit separated, needs to make sure that he doesn't invest his life into this fight a little too early.
Yeah, certainly not what you're going to want. And the Maywall coming up, K-Racing may not realize it, but not going to have the full support of their team. The Rhine shield going to be put under a lot of stress. And Jelly Boy taking a stun coming in from Genji, who then pops the High Noon, knowing no shields in there to intercept. The Blizzard coming out now might have been a bit bold from Joe Biden, but they're going to throw it in there, see if they can get anything. And now the offense is truly on the offense.
And yeah, it's just Strife floating to her death there at the very end. This is going to be one final fight for the defense. They have to make this count. They have a couple options available to them, namely still that Shatter, still that Graviton. Strife will be making the swap over to Ana just to try and keep her teammates alive. And now Alpaca does have a window as well to work with, but they need to get in here. The offense has been dictating the fight every single time.
That is certainly true. The sleep onto Sunliner has the Reaper Death Blossom in hand. Doesn't quite get punished by that sleep, though. Wolf actually got locked down into the grab from Matter. Joe Biden will be taken down, and looks like that's going to be enough for Wacky Wildcats to back off.
And to me, just from looking at that on a perspective during the fight, that might have been a planned dry fight just to try and get some of those ultimates out, but absolutely did not get out all of the ones that they hoped for. So now Jelly Boy still sitting on this Shatter is honestly just probably playing mind games with K Racing at this point, just trying to make him hold on. And Sunliner is in the same flank position.
Yeah, and a deep throw from the Blizzard coming out from True Donger. Doesn't look like it's going to catch too much out. K Racing going to be getting the pin onto Jelly Boy. Genji getting 2 with the Deadeye. And with this, it's looking great for the Wacky Wildcats. They have just a little bit of distance to make it. Can Sunliner touch? In fact, they can.
Yeah, but the Maywall's at choke. No one can really get out. And that Blizzard yeet, not only was it a little bit of ambitious, but actually might have cost them the map there.
Yeah. Ultimately went a little bit too far past the mid and back lines of the Wacky Wildcats, so not quite able to find that value that you might want out of it.
Yeah, especially when a ultimate like Blizzard is so impactful into static ground comps, especially this Ryan Zarya. You can just use it as a get off me button, throw it on card if you want, but throwing it out like that is highly ambitious, highly risky, didn't find anything, and also you used the biggest play you had to keep the defense alive. Now, because of it, not necessarily only because of that, but Wacky Wildcats are sitting at over a minute, which on these first point assault maps, so hybrid and assault both, having over a minute time bank is huge, because that means the other team might not necessarily get any chance to draw if they don't cap with time left on the clock.
Yeah, overtime is not going to be good enough here coming in from the Corvus team. Wacky Wildcats have really kind of made their own pace. They know how much leeway they can give Corvus, or how much leeway I guess Corvus can take from them. And so far, looking at it, Joe Biden on this Pharah, I'm not against it, but it definitely comes with its risks.
Yeah, definitely comes with risk, but I'm just looking at the support line, this DPS line. What are they going to do about it? Like, the only option you really have if they stick on this is to send Matter into the sky every single time, and it's very hard for a diva by herself to zone a pharmacy. Meanwhile, the Pharah can put in a lot of pressure, pull out the armor packs from Strife, and actually just take down Strife with the help of Genji. Like, you don't even need that. This is going to be a stall in first one. They have plenty of time to keep working with it, and this has to be back to the drawing board from Corvus. I don't want to see it end like this for them.
Yeah, Corvus, I would really prefer to see them go out with a bang, but the only one going out with a bang would be True Donger, taking an Icicle by Genji. The Immortality field going to be wasted from Wolf, or not wasted, but invested. Really trying to just get those teammates up, make sure they can pull out, and it's tough. The Wacky Wildcats holding strong.
Yeah, Sunliner has made the swap over to McCree now, but Madar demeched very early in this fight, already a minute off the clock. It's gonna be another 30 seconds at least to just go back, swap, get with your team, but Madar not making the heads up play and opting to try and build back up to the mech themselves. And K Racing just holding up shield right now, wasting time. Joe Biden has a pharmacy ult. Like, this is what you need to get in this. Madar actually goes finally back to spawn, swaps to Sigma, and is looking like he's gonna change, like, keep this for certain. And Strife now swapping over to Ana, so a little bit more sustain, helping the team get through this, a little bit more answers. Just, you hate to see it.
Yeah, Joe Biden almost takes themselves out with the May wall. Genji bringing it right up into their face. The pin coming in from K Racing, trying to land, and just barely misses the Sigma with his hand up saying halt. Matter going to be able to get away, and the defense continues to hold.
Yeah, and I still think this Sigma pick for them is not the call. They're just getting these kills. They're not dealing with Joe Biden in any sense. They're trying to take these fights, but not doing the rotations necessary for it. Now, 5 ultimates up from the defense. This is going to be an uphill battle if you see any plays coming out, but it's going to have to be on the back of Jelly Boy's Shatter, because that's coming online as soon as.
Yeah, really well. The amplification window coming out from Wolf. Genji going to be dropping the Blizzard, but does take an anti-nade for their trouble. The grab flux from Patsby trying to make it happen. Doesn't quite find too much, but the rest of their DPS line will be there to support them. And even Classic trying to pull out the Mercy pistol right about now.
Let's far to die, so you don't want to see that. But has the res, gets punched out of it. This is the opening that Corvus Static need. They can get in on this now. It's a 5-5.
They didn't get the kill on the Classic, and you got to think Joe Biden's going to be able to get in here quickly, so they do need to act fast.
Yeah, far is not the fastest to come back to point, but they did cancel res. Attacker spawn is closer, and Joe Biden isn't in the sky right now, so they need to get in fast.
Yeah, True Dong are going to be looking for it, but gets hit by a giant accretion. Sunliner going to be dropping that high noon, gets 2, almost the 3 if the Immortality Field hadn't been online, and it's looking great for the attackers. Corvus Static finally swinging back, finally making their voices heard with that the Maywall coming out, but Sunliner doesn't care. He's going to take down some more.
Yeah, Sunliner able to finally find the space that they need to operate. They get the point. Now Corvus Static in control of this, have point A, but only 40 seconds left on the clock. This is going to be an uphill battle the rest of the way if they want to win this map and stay in the series, because it's still first to 3, and right now it's starting to show signs of maybe a 3-0. They need to get their heads in this fast.
Yeah, at least want to get those maps favorable, and a very far lead from Jelly Boy. Sunliner trying to give them a little bit of support, but taking a bit of early damage as well. The pin coming in, gonna be hitting Matter. K-Racing brought to life by that Immortality Field, making sure that they don't fall, and it looks like Wacky Wildcats aren't done having aggressive holds.
No, and Joe Biden tries to push up, tries to pressure out Sunliner, but Sunliner is forced to go all the way back to spot. Now, Joe Biden sitting at another barrage. K-Racing sitting at another shatter. They have some options for this. You do have to sneak that shatter in through 2 shields, but the Doomfist is the first to strike in, get some damage off.
And the combo going to be coming in here, the grab flux as well as the meteor strike. Sunliner takes down Joe Biden, but a return pin coming in from K-Racing, goes for the shatter, doesn't quite land too much, takes down Strife. However, she will be on the ground for the time being. And despite what we're looking like some pretty powerful combos, Wacky Wildcats just managed to outkill the side of Corvus.
Yeah, the sleep on the K-Racing is just a parting gift as we see Strife try and get back into spawn, but Strife has built up to that nano. Will be able to help keep Jelly Boy alive on this Ryan, because right now Jelly Boy is struggling in this fight, especially against this bar. Joe Biden just has his number, has a barrage even this fight, and can do whatever they please.
Yeah, gonna be dropping that barrage, getting 2, immediately breaking that Sig Shield and Matter in half, and with that Strife cleaned up late, Joe Biden going for these late kills.
I think at this point, Wacky Wildcats have found the kryptonite of Corvus Static, right? Like, they're having so much trouble dealing with this far. And it got to a point, too, especially early on in Hollywood after the first couple holds, where you're starting to see signs of a little bit of tilt coming through as well, right? Like, it's not as clean. They're trying to do these weird plays. The coordination isn't there. But finally, on to Cart, they push in, find Genji on the Mei, but they need to keep the kills coming.
Yeah, K-Racing perhaps getting a bit too arrogant, trying to find the behind-the-lines pin. Not going to be getting it. In fact, Wolf and Joe Biden taken down by a Deadeye coming in from Sunliner. The pin now going to be going on to Matter. K-Racing does find it that time around, but it's just going to be Patsby on point with the Mercy. Gets taken down by Strife. One good support deserves another.
Yeah, look at how much time they shaved off the clock. You see Genji getting a little aggressive and poking on this Mei. If they're not careful, they will get staggered. But there's plenty of time for the defense to come in here. Plenty of time for them to poke another fight out. There's only 40 seconds left on the clock, dude. That's the important part here. If Corvus Static want to stay in the series, they need to win this next fight. The shatter has to be huge. The nano needs to keep someone alive. They need to make plays here.
Can they make it happen? The Baptiste getting focused out by the Doomfist. The Immortality Field going to be coming in to save the majority of their team. The Meteor Strike going to be landing right behind the opposing team, but True Dogger taken down by Genji and Reinhardt. By Mei and Reinhardt, I should say. Sunliner trying to find these aerial targets, finds one, but is it enough? It's not gonna be as Patsby takes them down. Joe Biden gets brought right back up anyway, and it doesn't look like anybody can touch.
No, 5 seconds left. No one will be able to touch. No one was there to trigger overtime. And of what started out to be a very, very crazy fight and looking very even between these two teams ended up being quite the stomp for Wacky Wildcats. They were able to really get in the heads of Corvus Static and rely on that pharmacy to just cause so much chaos for them that they weren't able to deal with it today.
Yeah, it does not look like this was quite the day for Corvus Static, but you know, these teams were pretty evenly matched when it came to win-loss ratio. You know, maybe it does come down to those substitutions. It did seem like the DPS were having a little bit of a tough time. I think that there were times where True Dogger was shining, where Sunliner wasn't necessarily as bright, and then the same Sunliner was really bright, and then True Dogger looking a little bit dim. So I
Yeah.
think it can you can kind of give a little bit of that blame to the substitutions.
Yeah, a little bit. And like we were saying earlier, both these teams were 5-3 coming in today. There were three ringers on the field from Genji, True Donger, and Sunliner. So Corvus Stack at a little bit of disadvantage in that they aren't running with their traditional DPS lineup. And I think that really showed in how they're handling and not only their coordination between the two DPS, but the coordination with the DPS and the rest of the team as well, right? Like there are a couple times where you saw really good spots from Sunliner and True Donger get in. They were having some good rotations on, namely Lijiang Night Market, I believe it was, or Control Center.
Mhm.
But it kind of just fell apart. It got into a point where Wacky Wildcats started kind of figuring out what they could abuse about it and just keep doing it. And over time, you saw it wear on Corvus. They were unable to deal with it. You saw signs of tilt coming through and just ended up not being their day to day because of it. So Corvus Static will be going up or will be going down to now 5-4. Wacky
Mhm.
Wildcats will be going up to 6-3. If they keep winning, if they win one more time, that might be the game tomorrow for them, or the game this weekend rather, that determines whether they'll be in the playoffs for Get Good NA this season.
Yeah, Wacky Wildcat's going to be a little bit hungry now that they have their meal within their sights. So we're going to be wishing them all the best. Well played from both these teams, I have to say. Corvus Static, I do agree, kind of faltered in the end there, but especially at that first point, it was looking good. It was looking like a very good match.
Yeah, for sure. And honestly, I'm really excited with the games we got tonight because they were both 3-0s, but they were both very high octane games. And it's not something I get
Mhm.
to say a lot, but like my heart was pounding for parts of that, and there were plenty of like really great moments from both games today. And while that may be the end of us for both me and Sir Waltham tonight, there will be some console games going on tomorrow for Elo Hell.
Yeah, so definitely be sure and catch those. Although our PC time has wrapped up, there's always more Overwatch to be had. So definitely feel free to tune in and join, the community in watching those games.
Mhm. But for basically everyone that's been sticking with us in Twitch chat and cheering us on tonight and cheering on these two teams, that's going to be it for us tonight. Any final shout outs, any players to keep track of between these four teams that we saw today for you?
I really liked Joe Biden, and that is purely because I saw the most fair come out of them. Uh, uh, that's really just where I have to end it. I did like both Rhine players, although I think Wildcats may have had a slight edge, especially K Racing just going absolutely heavy. When that Rhine gets aggro, you're absolutely right. It's the best kind of dumb.
Yeah. And honestly, the tank play that we saw from the two GM teams earlier as well was
Mhm.
was very great to watch, especially as like someone that has played quite a bit of tank in their time in Overwatch. Just very aggressive play coming out, very, very forward play, very W play, just in the other team's backline the whole time.
All W, no S, but yeah, no, I definitely have to give my votes for those as some of the most impactful players tonight.
All right. Well, that wraps it up for us tonight at Elo Hell. Thanks to Sir Waltham. Thanks to all the producers helping us out. And I hope everyone in Twitch land has a wonderful night tonight.